dumb enough to actually see it, so there's probably not a lot to talk about.
Patrons were talking shit about you in the Discord for being excited about Barbie, just to let you know, because I don't think you're in there seeing it.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
They thought it was me, and I was like, no, that's not me. They were like, why is COH excited about Barbie? And I was like, I didn't even mention it. That's Slav. Don't draw me into this.
There's I don't know, 2023. We talked to Prudentialist last week about candidates, and it's just an interesting thing to talk about. I mean, I'm like, especially after I think the last two elections were just like the fucking end of the world, and of course that's going to come up again, but like it just seems so low energy this time. Paris riots, used cars, Pearl Davis, Hunter Biden's penis, Snow White, being a gamer, and then RFK Jr. So I mean, we got plenty.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. But COH, you wanna kick it off, because I'm waiting for my caffeine to kind of hit me.
Yeah, man. So Maarek, Bogbeef, we're super stoked to have you on. These people are sick. We're excited to be talking to you guys again. It's been quite some time. And yeah, I just wanted to catch up, ask you guys how y'all are doing.
Yeah, we haven't talked to you guys since the incident.
Yeah, since the explosion.
since we just became infamous in Vanity Fair magazine.
Yeah. Didact gamers and such, you know.
I didn't even. Oh, go ahead.
Just got out of the can, you know. Get into Islam, start lifting weights and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Joined Hustlers University. I didn't even realize, like, because there was there were a few ordeals that followed in rapid succession after that.
There were schisms after schisms.
Yeah, which I've kind of made a point of. What I've noticed for a while that I think Bogbeef specifically kind of makes a point of not getting into drama, which I've always respected, and that's kind of my policy with this. But I didn't even realize that I hadn't even talked to you guys about the Vanity Fair thing. That's fucking funny. Yeah, I mean, how has life been since the transformative power of being labeled autodidact Southern gamer thought leaders?
You know, they mentioned this again since then, but it wasn't as funny as that. It was like an offhanded mention. Was it Vanity Fair? Whatever. I think it was the same. Yeah. I think it was James Pogue, right? Again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, like how. Like one man's.
Do you think he's a patron at this point? 2 mentions. Do you think he's giving you the neat bucks?
He better be, bro.
I think so. I mean,
he listens to the show. I mean, we read his stuff too, so it's like
sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like an old school journalist. Like he's just the facts, man, kind of guy. So, and I mean, I thought it was fair. I mean, a lot of people and people that hate right wing stuff thought it was fair. But I don't know. The main thing that did that probably got us some interviews we couldn't have got before.
Yeah, I bought a copy for my mom and gave it to her. I was like, "Look, I'm in Vanity Fair magazine. Just funny, one man's heaven is another man's hell." It was like some people like acted like they had just been named as like the second leader of Al Qaeda when it happened.
I mean, dude, I think that would have been maybe even cooler for some people. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I think it was a great. God, it's so funny. We're kind of going back far here. I thought it was great. I mean, I thought it was literally a flattering article.
Oh, it was. Yeah.
And I thought it was gratifying to see this, you know, the shit that we'd put, you know, that all of us, the projects that we had all put work into over a stretch, you know, a stretch of time, getting called out. That feels pretty good. But you know, I mean, I guess I can understand. Well, you know, we won't go into that, but I can understand other points of view, certainly.
Well, I mean, he's written on it again. I think maybe a third time. I don't know, at least 2 times, and then a bunch of people got pissed off the second time and stuff like. And you know, I don't know. Maybe some of that. Maybe I'm naive. Like you know, you can certainly get some more cheap heat by if you want to lean into it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How dare you?
I'm just beside myself. It just seems like, it seems even in the best case or the worst case scenario, it's like no such thing as bad press. I mean, they could literally call me the leader of Al Qaeda, and I'd be like, whatever.
It's all contingent on what you're doing in reality. Like there's some people like, bad publicity can be bad publicity. You can get fired from your job for a hot take. Didn't that happen to Prudentialist himself? Didn't that happen to him once?
I think we're thinking of
Bennett's
that might have been Bennett.
Yeah.
But that was more of like a and I don't even know because that guy's a Mormon, right? And so I assume that they've just basically got that whole formal kind of community suit of armor around every aspect of their life.
Well, I think he made the mistake of not being the only Mormon not in like the CIA or FBI. So he got fired.
Yeah. But it seems like he bounced back all right from it. So, I mean, God bless him. And now he's out here like Oren, just face out there and everything. And passes the physiognomy check. So that's
your exposure definitely matters and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you've got to sort of make decisions about what you want to do online once you start talking shit. Right. If you want to be like, if you just want to post leftist opinions, and you'll see this, you will see people that just have their name, their face, their employer out there, and they love they can say anything they want, and that's obvious. Like that should not be a revelation to anybody. You could you
can death threaten people if you're doing it from their direction. It's fine.
Oh, it's nonstop.
This is actually funny because I was going. The way I do most of my thinking before an episode, I was just going for a walk earlier, and I was thinking about that broad because we've been off Twitter for a while, and I see that chick on TikTok or Instagram or whatever who has the like SSRI face and the glasses, the smug thing that just doxes people. That I know I'm not narrowing it, but like she just doxes people, right? That's like her entire thing is like some guy. With like pit vipers or something, calls her a bitch in a comment thread, and then she makes a whole like saga video of her just like detective work, just like destroying this person's life. Like you guys know who I'm talking about. If I'm not, and like
people
just
will send you money,
right, and it's just mysteriously terms of service just never encroach into her life at all online.
There's one who's like she was not internet, but she was Twitter, like a Twitter character in, I don't know, 2015, 16, and then later when the 2020 riots began happening, that socialist dog mom, you probably heard of her, right?
Oh, yeah.
She lives in Charlottesville, like really close to me. She came to where I lived in 2020, doing her like citizen journalism and trying to dox people. She doxed like this spouse of one of my cousins, and it's like it didn't matter. It's like nobody cared. I was like, he has the AR-15. You say, yeah, okay, go away.
We all do. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And she just kind of slunk back across the mountain. But her thing was she was getting a Patreon money fee to just go to the Charlottesville City Council and like sit there and take notes and pretend like she was spying on the enemy or something. Like Charlottesville is a city run by like university professors and like the same patronage groups that you in every city. It's like it would be like going to the Berkeley City Council meeting and saying like, I'm here at at Nuremberg taking notes to find out the new conspiracy to wipe out whatever. There's no equivalent for any other group, not even like right wing. There's just like there's no radical moderate group that'll pay you to do that. Only those people have that money and
But Charlottesville was on like an interesting frontier, and that's where you live. You live on the Fulda Gap, basically. I mean, it's not that interesting, but I mean, so Virginia is, the federal government has grown a lot when would you say that the sort of turbo growth started, Maarek?
I mean, really in the 90s. Northern Virginia in the 80s was nothing like it is now, and DC itself wasn't. There was a lot of growth during the War on Terror, specifically in DC.
Yes.
And yet, like now, it's kind of just like metastasizing down through Northern Virginia. Like every year, it creeps a little bit closer down to like the normal human being parts of Virginia. And they've ruined our
growth.
Yeah, they've ruined our state politics, and they're just all these like creatures like her. Like she would have had there would be no place for her even, I don't know, we'll say 20 years ago. It just wouldn't have been a thing. But now there's plenty of space for parasites because the federal government is so bloated, especially the military stuff, which is like you have. If you want to work for FBI, CIA, whatever, you're probably going to live in Northern Virginia. If you're working for Norfolk Naval Yards, whatever, it's all ground zero here. So it's rough. It's California. It could go it could be a California East Coast edition in a generation easily. It could happen.
Yeah, I've heard some shit about Richmond. Just not being a great place to be with that kind of stuff, but
don't get him going.
Get going! I want to hear it.
I guess imagine Detroit scaled down. Like that's an exaggeration. Richmond's not that bad anymore. It was really bad in the 90s and 80s. Now I think a lot of hipsters and stuff moved them. But for me,
that's what I meant more so. I wasn't talking about crime. I was talking about these fuckers, dude.
It's like kind of pick your poison. Which one's worse? The guys that stick you up at the ATM or the person who's going to complain to you about the adjectives you use for people.
Well, to be fair, I would probably say the latter because eventually at some point the former comes into the picture because of the PMC yuppie, right? The crime follows them also, right?
You can always get a CCW to deal with the first group. There's no recourse for the second.
Right.
Exactly. It's terminal.
Yeah, man. I feel like that whole thing's a cycle. It's like you're gonna have a place that's like fucking crime central, shit town. Everything's falling apart, and then you get all these fucking people that move in there from some other place that have the purple hair and the big rim glasses. They gentrify it, whatever. They do that thing, and then they go around and they spread all their bullshit. And then just more poor people happen because like no one can afford to live there, and no one actually wants to live in this shithole. And so it just becomes more and more degraded down again. And it's just this never-ending cycle. I live in a city that has a lot of that going on, and it's pretty terrible to be around. Yeah, and neither one of them is good.
We've had this cycle in America, and not in our lifetimes, but our parents' lifetimes. These cities were once, like Detroit was once. We always talk about this. Was once the richest city in the country. Motor City. 2 or 3 generations ago, not that long ago. But if you're talking, like that's a very dramatic example. If you think a place like Richmond, okay, Richmond was allegedly one of the most murderous cities in like the 80s and 90s. Because this is at the height of like the tail end of our first prison reform, criminal reform movement, like where we just decided to make crime legal. They did that pretty much in the 60s and the early 70s, and it led to you've seen Taxi Driver, you know what these places were like. Eventually, people got sick of that, and you had the shift in the late 80s and early 90s to just throw all these people in prison.
Right.
And they cleaned up the cities enough that these people could move back in. But it's worse than that this time because you have this explosive growth and frankly, they just kind of, I think, figured out we'll just turn the money press nonstop. It's like there's no limit to what you can do in Northern Virginia if you're working off of government money because because government money is functionally limitless, and I think they have just pretty much come to terms with that now, especially after the stuff that happened in 2020. We'll just drop a dump truck of money on our supporters, both high and low. And there'll be 10% inflation for the plebs, but who cares? We'll just dump more money on our supporters. And like long term, that won't work. But in the short term, you're going to have these places that you have insane amount of money. You have a lady on TikTok who makes 120 grand, and you've seen these videos. What do these people do? What do they do at work?
Gang.
Yeah, Yeah.
Hot dog, yum.
Yeah.
Do you have a theory about these NPC video things?
I think that we really did a disservice by like taking away 2.5 solid years of socialization for young people.
Yeah.
And I think I think that just I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I had my experience of like getting sober when I just like couldn't handle the sauce, and I'm very sensitive to just how easily people can just lose control of, you know, just shit that's pleasurable. And so, I mean, I'm surrounded by people that are just completely addicted to shit and they don't even know. And you see that, and it's just it's just milking your brain, you know? So that's and that's probably a pretty normie take on it, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, to anybody that I think is past the age of, I think that people are looking at media primarily for socialization way later into life than they normally would be. And so I think at this point, like anybody under 22 is like going to see a movie and still basically figuring out like how to respond and act to things. But I think anybody probably past that point looks at shit like that and it's just like what the fuck is this? Is satanic, right? It's pretty, and it's pretty self-evident, you know. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts?
I mean, and by the way, and so what is satanic about? I mean, real quick on the previous thing, on the federal government thing, everyone has sort of felt uncertainty, and we haven't really. I don't really think that anyone has felt a real economic boom in a long time.
Mm.
And so in that case, why would you work for anyone but the federal government? Or
right.
Yeah, these people, your check is always good. It's always good. And this is they don't like are the TPS reports done? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your check still comes. It's awesome. So there's that. But anyways, going to the
satanic aspects.
Yeah, it's
satanic videos on TikTok.
Okay, all right.
I think this first sort of like when I first sort of like the first time I saw this sort of open up was and I never played this that but I knew people, I worked with people that were cool, that were in great shape, that had previously went out every Saturday night, were cool people, and they got addicted to playing World of Warcraft. I never played it once, but I would read about it, and like it was clear that they took a video game. Yep. They're like, okay, well, who cares about the game? Let's see if let's bring in some psychiatrists and stuff and see if we know that somehow in this game we can touch the little nodule in your brain that secretes endorphins or whatever when something feels good. Yep. Let's just focus on that cycle of releasing that and just hammer that. And I don't think this is a exaggeration. I think they were directly looking at like we can make more money by addicting people to this. And they have pay people. Well, how do we get people addicted to it? And this is sort of expanded through everything. Also, there's a significant aspect of like everything on the internet is turning into like somewhere like everything that isn't directly porn is turning into like a 0 to 30% level of porn.
Well, and that's totally what the NPC thing is online, right?
Yeah,
and like,
dude.
and it's definitely like it's similar to, I think a common theme between porn and that is that it's just this kind of transactional, like life would be simpler if I could just go up to a person. This is like how autistic people think. I could just go up to a person and like hit a button for the input, right? As opposed to having an actual relationship. Just like I pay $1 to give the hot dog and then they clap like a seal thing, right? And I mean like that. It's funny because I was just before we have anybody on, I always just like take a sec to like brush up again on their shit. And I was listening to your guys' I think it was your last solo app, and you guys were talking about boomer shooters, right? Which I enjoy a decent amount. I have to say, it's funny. Not only have I been playing the latest expansion of World of Warcraft, pray for me. But like that that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. That gameplay, that modern gameplay design style, which I think is like most, or not gameplay design, but game design, is like most on display in like free to play shit, right? Where it's and it's less about designing the game, and it's more about like designing someone's lifestyle to orbit around this habit. It's not even a hobby; it's a habit, right? Because the whole thing, World of Warcraft monetizes by monthly subscription. So what you want is you want people to log in every day, and you want to cap how much they can do every day so that they log in tomorrow and shit like that, right? And it's like nightmarish, right? And that's where, yeah, like something like a boomer shooter or just the more like arcadey experiences, it's not really any of that at all, right? I mean, like you especially like that Doom game you were talking about, right? I mean, like you just download it and you just play it, and there's no like RPG mechanics like every game needs to have, where you're pushing forward in this meta progression way, and it's psychotic, right? And that is kind of the case for everything now, right? I mean, like this Twitter account that I built, I mean, I have like 4 fucking followers, right? And they're all like large accounts like you guys, because it's just people I know. But it's just like I go onto this and I like see the same thing, right? Where I'm just like, okay, like I could try to start building this account, right? But it's just like another habit that's just asking for me to just, build it into my lifestyle and go back to it, and it's habit forming, and it's fucking deranged. And it's I don't know, and to see at the very least, like, wow, right? I mean, you're dedicating time to get, I don't know, raid ready or whatever the fuck you want to do. It takes a couple months or something to do something like that, right? I know, right? Building a Twitter account, right? It takes some time to unless you're just one of these BAP tier people that can just post the N-word once and you suddenly have 10,000 people or something, right? But like how tight the loop is for this NPC stuff is insane to me. Like, it's just, you're just hitting the hot dog button and the dopamine hit is instant. Well, that's wild to me.
You kind of snuck into something here. They've gotten really good at doing this, and like here's an example. You're talking about the World of Warcraft. I've never played that one either, but every game is that now. They put elements of that in every game. Like I talk about this all the time. I like the basketball game, NBA 2K. You would think,
dude, yes,
that's like Madden or whatever. Like, right? You're just shooting basketballs. No, man, they have like a GTA city in that game, and you gotta run around the city to do stuff, right? If you're playing,
bro, that's what the new Street Fighter game is. The new Street Fighter game literally has a sandbox you walk around in and like talk to black women in. It's bizarre, dude. It's so weird. It's everything's a live service game now,
and there's a reason for that, because what the people who make 2K, making me a 2K, make Grand Theft Auto, and they figured out that actually you can sell ad space in that world and make players look at it. And this is something that is pretty. It's not new, but the acceptance of it's very new. I remember I can't remember exactly which game it was, but we're talking like, Bush era 2000s video game where it was like the internet was new enough that this some FPS game sold ad space and like billboards in their game, and people blew their tops about this. They were really angry about it. This is weird. You shouldn't be doing this. This is bizarre. I don't want to see a billboard of Ally McBeal or whatever in the background of the shooter. That's intrusive. I don't like this. And it's funny because like that would be so quaint now, because now everything is an advertisement. As for the NPC video things, like the pornification of everything, like those videos are the biggest W for like second wave feminists in their view on men that I've ever seen, because what it literally is you pay $5 or whatever, and you make this pretty woman just act like an idiot. You're paying her to degrade herself, and it's not like she's not taking off her clothes, but she's degrading herself by acting like a retard.
Dude, that French black chick like literally has like a son walking around in the background of these videos.
Yeah, and like I mean, honestly, that's not as bad as like cam girls just are doing this every day. Like you're paying somebody to degrade themselves. This is not as bad as that, but in a way, it is as bad because you can do this on Twitch. You can do this in front of 13-year-old boys or whatever. It's not behind any kind of, like, for example, in my state right now, you can't go to the website Pornhub. It's blocked because our based gargantuan governor passed a law that made their business model functionally illegal.
That is super based.
Based.
But you can still go to Twitch and watch this woman say gang gang, yum num, whatever. You can watch her do that, and it's not the same thing, but it's similar. So I don't know, but I think it really does for once validate something they said. They're being paid to degrade themselves, which is it's not that this is a new thing, because this has been forever, human history. What's new is how many people get into it, how normal and accepted it becomes. Like porn itself is a great example. Everybody looked at pictures of naked women in like boomer generation, whatever, but you didn't admit to it.
Yeah, you got your crunchy magazine.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the Playboy that you hid out in the woods or whatever, right? You weren't talking about how much like porn stars and stuff. People do that now. I think it's fundamentally a different experience. It's bad, and it all wraps back to what you originally said about socialization. Where every generation gets successively weirder because of technology. That's just how it is.
Yeah, 100%. And like I almost want to bring this up as an aside and not go too far down this because I don't want to be too religion rah here, but it's funny because the satanic aspect of it that I mentioned, I think one of the biggest parts of that is just it's 100%. What was that?
The degradation.
Exactly what Maarek brought up about the degradation of like this implicit not understanding the basic value of people, that's there. And it's so fucking funny because we were talking about Barbie. I don't know if any of that actually got recorded at all, but we were talking about Barbie when we were first talking. And this movie is struggling so much with just like basic human dignity and respecting other people and how hard it is to be a person. And it's folding itself into pretzels. And the movie like literally ends with her meeting the creator of Barbie in this, like, they've reached the logical conclusion and this like secular, sorry, spoilers, boys. But just like the secular train of thought has just brought them to the inevitable place of Barbie just needs to have a conversation with her maker to determine what her innate value is. While we're out here just saying like hot dog yum. And yeah, it's satanic. Like I said, I don't necessarily want to open this, go down this rabbit hole too far necessarily, but it's just kind of funny. Go ahead.
I want to defend the rabbit hole first. So I didn't see the movie either, but that doesn't mean a ton. I don't watch very many movies either. I don't watch very many movies at all.
Understandable.
But there's this attitude going around where a lot of people are saying, well, why are all these men, they especially mean right-wing men who are like disappointed, who are like bitching about this movie, why do you care about this? This is just a children's movie about toys. That's all. And it's like, oh, you're like, don't even try that. Like, this is like an ultra political movie. Everybody knows it. This is like obscenely, like it's just chock full of propaganda. It clearly like, if like, I'm sure there is like a decent chance that there are, well, it doesn't have to be Barbie, but just go find like any movie about children's toys made in like the 80s. And yes, this would be true. Like a G.I. Joe or Transformers or anything like that. I'm sure this is just makes kids want to buy the toys, and there's nothing about the patriarchy in there and shit like that. Everything's fine. So just like, take it easy with that. That's that's bullshit. That's just saying like, the message isn't going down well.
That's the move they always make. It's an alibi. I haven't seen the movie and I'm not going to, but I've seen reviews. I've seen people talking about. I saw somebody write out a synopsis of what happens, and like I jokingly referred to it beforehand as like triumph of the will for millennial women, and like in the description of the movie makes it sound like that. I talked to you guys about this beforehand, but like it bears mentioning, I think, that the first scene of the movie has little children, like they're playing with their baby dolls, which are they're little babies, they're dolls, but they look like infant babies, and Barbie like flies down and she's in her like 60s thought gear, and the little girls look at her and then like immediately just begin smashing it, dashing the heads of their baby dolls, just straight out the gate. Like it doesn't seem like it's going to be a subtle movie when they're talking about politics.
I
right?
think, yeah, and it's I mean, and yeah, I listened to a review as well, and I mean, this is Joker Femcell too. I mean,
literally. But the funny thing is we've got that like twice already, haven't we? Like we got that Cruella movie, and we got.
I don't know if Cruella really hit like that, though, dude.
No, it didn't. Well, this
like,
is people are actually seeing this one too.
Right,
but
right.
I will say just to confirm what you guys are saying a little bit here. I went into it already hearing that it was garbage, and I figured like, listen, right, like it'll be kind of that, a lot of that implicit stuff. You know, all of the people, all the Kens lined up are going to be very specifically in a specific order for race. I knew though there was going to be that, and maybe some lines here. This movie is probably the most egregious example I have ever seen and I'm not. This is authentic. The most egregious example I've ever seen in my life of just it was made with the political statements in mind and all the aesthetic considerations for story and all of that were completely secondary. It is so comically just the politics. It's wild.
It seems that's like every movie to me these days, like every large movie. And I know you're saying this is more so like maybe the most explicitly, but it feels like fundamentally that's what the motto is now for almost all art that's produced.
Generally. And this puts everything else I've ever seen to shame.
It's not just secondary though. I mean, this thing, because nobody would go see this movie if it wasn't attached to this major license. If it was just, you know, this sort of angry rant, delusional angry rant. The stuff about like how women are treated, like my understanding, like women can't vote in like the real world they go to, and like it's basically like they want to replay all the hits from back when
the 19th century.
Right, like oh, don't you know none of us can vote? We all stand around barefoot. We have 13 kids and pieces. Like, well, actually, you don't anymore. I mean, like you may have problems with being a woman and stuff, but like, why don't you just bring up like whatever is going on now, because you won all this stuff. You guys won. That's a party about that stuff. You won. But the thing about the licensing thing, this is why like you guys see. Well, I don't know if that's actually a Spider-Man. You guys see Spider-Man taking back shots?
Wait, what?
That's not where I was expecting this to go. No, what is this?
If you look up Tom Holland on Wikipedia and stuff, you'll get this section about like because normally they have this section about like kind of who they party with and stuff like that.
Is he Jewish?
No, he's
not. Early life section on Tom Holland,
but he'll do a section of like you know, that kind of stuff. And his, it just says I don't like Hollywood, so I don't hang out. I leave LA. I don't like Hollywood. I don't like the culture. Well, his new movie, he's S&D and taking back shots, pretty bad times. That is like.
Oh,
I mean,
there's some.
Okay,
they were posting gifs like he's dancing with the black guy or whatever. It's some movie set in the 70s or something, right? Where he's a twink. I mean, he looks like a twink.
I mean,
so
he is.
Yeah, but like you can't be Spider-Man and do that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe you can now because
you definitely can, dude. That's what that fucking market. It's not kids that are going to see Spider-Man primarily. It's these fucking depraved like these people that are, you know, in the polyamorous whatever relationships that are getting pegged in the back room, that are doing whatever. Those are the people that are showing up, making poor eye contact with the ticket person that's selling tickets to them and going to these movies. Those are them. It's not kids that are primarily, like, they're making this. So yeah, it's the same. They want to see Tom Holland Spider-Man taking back shots. That's like everything for them.
The Spider-Man's a good example, and I haven't seen any of the new the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies or whatever, but I did see the trailers for the first one, and like immediately you could tell, oh, okay, this is something different. The Flash is the bully, right? He's supposed to be the football player who whoops Peter Parker's ass.
Isn't he a rapist or something?
Yeah, Ezra Miller. Yeah, that motherfucker's sick of pussy.
No. You guys are thinking of the Justice League Flash. This is like Flash Thompson's like the jock in Spider-Man.
He's just the big bully football player who beats on Peter Parker's ass. That's his only role in any of the movies.
Exactly. Now he's like an incel coded Indian kid in the new movie.
He's like a 5'3" like Guatemalan. I'm not joking. I'm not fucking joking. He is, and like Mary Jane is this Zendaya, yeah. the most unattractive woman I've ever seen cast as attractive characters. It's bizarre. Like, everybody's pretending that they used to do the opposite. Remember, like Fairuza Balk in the 90s was supposed to be, ooh, she's weird looking, but like no, she was hot.
Right.
But she was like, she could be the ugly friend in a movie in the 90s.
The reason why Zendaya's popping is because she looks like a child.
Ugh.
And people want to see that kind of thing.
Well, Zendaya also Zendaya, this might be just too deep of a cut, but just like Zendaya is like the biggest example of proof I've ever seen of just that 4chan thread that was just about like what's happened in Brazil with like marketing and demographic change, and I'm just like, Zendaya is just Brazil, like it's. But anyways, I won't go too far down that hole. But yeah, no, I'm sick of this broad. I'm also just generally not into like just the whole like you can just look kind of boring, and then if you just kind of do the hot girl anhedonic like I'm dead inside expression, you're supposed to be really hot, and it's like no, you're not. But
no, you have to do that because that's like girl code stuff between them, because they know that men like perky, happy women.
Yeah,
that's
so
what
true.
we like. So we like perky, sparky, hey, happy to be there.
Smile, honey.
Yeah, we love that, and so you're sort of maintaining your street cred with other women if you act like a bitch all the time.
That's so true. I feel like they embraced the resting bitch face thing really heavily.
Of course. There's the whole thing about resting bitch face being like, it's just genetic. No, this is that is like whatever people like look like you can tell what people's thought process is by looking at their face.
Yeah, dude, for real.
It's the who's our boy who just the old British children's author that
J.K. Rowling?
No.
Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl. He has that
whatever.
He has that quote about the most beautiful person in the world could just have the most malignant, ugly thoughts, and you'll see it on their face. They'll be ugly, but somebody could have a big honking nose and be really ugly. But if they're just like kind and have beautiful thoughts, like you'll see it on their face. There's something to COH, just Uggo King.
No, I just got a big nose, dude. But I go around and just put the love of God in everybody, bro.
It's all those crystals you're carrying around. And,
look, if you got a giant nose, being a podcaster, not the worst career decision. You're not alone.
Big noses is probably the only thing that like because we heard all this stuff like, well, those are just Western beauty standards. Nobody actually likes 20-year-old women with big tits and blonde hair and all this kind of stuff. And, okay, now like so 99% of that was bullshit, but I mean I think now you can see that there's you see these people, they'll have like I'll say I like women with big nose. And I think there's plenty of women that like guys with big nose, especially you see these like before and after, and they'll be like they got a little button nose, and like they should have got the big cans. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It covers over a multitude of sins when you have big hands.
Well, that's like who was the broad in Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, you were on that.
He's a film nudity expert.
You got one of the websites. You run one
Absolutely.
of those in the early days.
That's the name of our group chat with our friend who does the X-Files podcast with us. We named it Film Nudity Expert Chat. I'm not actually a film nudity expert, although I wish I was.
Sure, yeah. So speaking of that, I rewatched Basic Instinct recently.
Hell yes!
Absolutely holds up, and I think it's a heavy hitter as far as that milieu goes. But
I had never seen it, man. We watched it. Oh yeah, I'd never seen it. It was on on Amazon Prime, the director's cut. And it was it's the horniest movie I've ever seen in my life.
It's so fucking horny.
What wasn't in the regular cut? You see your birth canal or something?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the regular cut, but yeah, I mean, it's wild. I see why boomers went nuts about that movie when it came out now.
Yeah. That's the dude. If you liked that, a lesser celebrated movie that's kind of that same like kind of noir psychosexual thing going on with the cool kind of 90s aesthetic was David Mamet, House of Games.
Never heard of it.
It rocks, dude. It rocks. Anyways, check that out. But
so we're real quick about the comic book stuff. So this licensing thing, it really bothers me because like this is why like Captain America or all these people that like they're all gay now. They attach these things to it because they know there's
Captain America's black now.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't know if you saw that guy in Black Mirror, but he's both.
Oh, that's
that Black Mirror episode where he's in the Street Fighter game and like he starts it's a Street Fighter VR. I should make you watch this, Bogbeef. They play a VR Street Fighter game. It's like
and they start fucking each other.
Yeah, they don't fight. He and his boy just start like having.
Yeah, we was Chun-Li. It's a mess. It's a mess.
Oh, it's the guy that plays Captain America is the guy in that episode.
Yeah, and he's just getting blown out.
He's the guy on the download. Yeah.
So they attach these things because like I have known like random like you'll meet a random boomer every now and then that like loves Batman. They've loved Batman since they're a little kid. And they're grown man. They have a family, and they like they talk to their kids about Batman. They love Batman, all this kind of stuff. There's all these sort of people that are sort of built into this kind of stuff. They're like, well, I guess I got to go. Well, I like Batman. I guess I'll go see it. It's not Michael Keaton anymore, but we'll go see the Batman. And these people they're totally bankrupt. They have remember nobody would go see any of this shit if they couldn't do this. So like there's all this discussion now of like they really want to make Punisher a bundle of sticks. They would love this.
He's just punishing dudes' asses all day long.
They changed the logo in the comic books.
I'm sure.
They changed it to like a Pacific Islander tribal tattoo looking.
Wait, what?
And
the fuck?
I think they kept the original logo. Yeah, because off-duty police officers fucking wear the.
Oh yeah,
and
dude.
it's and I think they probably kept the logo, and I think it's like a fucking like Wignat supervillain or something. It's hilarious. Yeah.
Well,
sorry, I'm cutting you off.
That's okay. And so, but what's funny is like, and so they could do that. They could make. Gay Punisher, whatever. It wouldn't make very much money, and there would be all this discussion. We would bitch about whatever, and that would be it. Whereas right wingers or anyone else or any of these sort of other filmmakers, whatever, like I would go watch. Like if you made like basically the same idea as say Punisher or Death Wish or anything like that, take all the license off. Just name him Joe Smith or whatever. And have a guy going around town, shooting criminals in the head for 2 hours. I would think that I don't need the license. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just so weird because like you go back to like the 70s and stuff like that. When I always think of that song, not Welcome to the Jungle. What is what's the great Vietnam song?
Oh,
Run Through the Jungle.
Run Through the Jungle.
Oh, Run Through the Jungle. Okay.
One of the greatest songs about the Vietnam War ever. Like in real life. like they asked him like, so what was it like writing the greatest song about Vietnam ever? And he's like, well, no, actually that song, I'm a giant libtard, and that song was about gun control, and the jungle is trying to walk through America's cities and with all these guns on the street. And it's like,
that would be a right-wing song now.
Yeah. But it's like, they were so, like, even the most libtarded things back in the 70s and 60s and stuff, they were so creative that, like, if you're right wing, left wing, you couldn't help to listen to it. The hippies made awesome music. They just did. And that's all gone.
Well, I don't know if they realize it, but it's a problem from they did this with Star Wars, and I mean, you can never say you killed the franchise, but like people don't like Star Wars as much anymore after they made like 4 dog shit movies, shoving a bunch of crap into it. This is that eventually, I guess you'll never run out of old stuff, but eventually you'll probably run out of money to just remake old stuff and try to cram your propaganda into it. If you're good at making the propaganda, you can do whatever you want. Like, we know this. I love Rod Serling. I love the Twilight Zone, but like Rod Serling was a giant lib.
Huge.
That show's is packed full of 50s and 60s lib propaganda. It's just, but it's so good. You're like, I'm going to watch it anyway because there's some motherfucker on the wing and he's chewing stuff up. I got to watch it, even though I know the next episode is going to be some bullshit about the civil rights movement. I'm in anyway. You got me, Rod. They don't have anybody who can do that now. They just don't. It doesn't exist.
But also jobs. A lot of this shit is just networking jobs, and they sort of use being an ultra lib as basically just like being in the Masons or whatever. That's the code,
It's a prerequisite.
Well, this was God, what was it? I think Oren, when he was just belting out bangers at that Blaze Summit, and he killed it. He did fucking kill it. That was cool. Also, I love it's kind of quaint the way they have their Dave Ramsey headsets there. It's like they're sports commentators, but I think it's kind of funny. But he did great, and his the way he articulated the cultural production issue of God, what was it? It's just like none of these people. Christopher Lash talks about this a decent amount, right? Of none of these people have any invested, rooted stake in any of these individual companies, right? It's just building a resume, right? And then they just move on. They're not actually beholden to any stakeholders in the company or anything like that. It doesn't matter if this fucking Snow White fever dream does anything. It's just that it's something on the CV, and then you just leave once that fails. You go to the next thing. Exactly the point you were just making. And
exactly. This is something that the boomer conservatives, whatever, and just generally people, you have to kind of get into politics a little bit, I think, or you got to read some stuff to sort of get to the level where you because they always say, well, why would Anheuser-Busch do this? Why would Marvel do? Why? And they picture maybe because movies they picture all these meetings are. I mean, they really picture this, that there's 12 70-year-old white men sitting around a table, even if there's diversity hires or whatever, and these guys are, and all the stockholders looking up to them, and this is how decisions are. Well, the thing is, decisions are not made by Anheuser-Busch. Mm-hmm. Nobody owns Anheuser-Busch. Nobody cares. This person is going, they're going to lose a bunch of money for this, but they're going to cruise on to the next thing. And
you found. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say they're picturing just the picture of George W. Bush in the kindergarten classroom being like, sir, they, the plebs are reacting to Dylan Mulvaney. And they're just like, oh my God, there's going to be a meltdown. And that, in what you're saying, I mean, it's kind of, and God bless him. That's the whole, it's Oren's whole thing to touch on him again is just hammering boomer cons over the head with this of just you don't fucking understand. This isn't a medium through which you're going to communicate anything to them. I still think that it feels good. I'm gonna go see The Sound of Freedom because it's gonna just make me feel nice, right? The augmented reality marketing of the movie. I'm gonna feel nice seeing the contrarian movie, but I have no illusion that that's actually going to do anything.
Well, I mean, so that's a slightly different question. Now, I know less about that, but I know, and there's a lot of smart people that have told me that basically, things being cool in movies is very, very important in terms of cultural cachet and stuff like that. They nobody sort of thinks of themselves that way, but there's a lot of people that don't read books and shit like that. And if things are in movies, it's fine. And if not, I mean, a modern movie, I mean, they've perfected so much about movies. They could, you know, if you wanted to, you could make an excellent movie about pretty much anything. If you had the right people from Hollywood and this camera guy, I mean, they are some of the most, it's probably one of our last thing. Like we're as good at it as, the individual creators are as good at it as people, as, guys making samurai swords in Asia, Japan and stuff. You ever seen the just the camera guys that walk with the camera?
Steadicam, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They all are like Hulk Hogan big. They have like some dude that can lead them around without them looking. They walk up and down the steps without looking. I mean, these people are just like machines.
I've shot video on one. I've shot a project on one of those, and it's fucking hard. It's like the vest and everything, and the arm, like that shit is genuine work. So yeah, and I think like, and that's the craft aspect of it, right? I mean, there still are authentic craftsmen, working on that. I mean, what you're saying kind of reminds me a little bit of like a point that like Moldbug had talked about a little bit, right? Of just being like, what you want to do is you want to get the shit that we're talking about in esoteric circles, random obscure circles, to be the shit that is labeled cool, so that you get the elites, you get the elves, to take it seriously, because there's some level of, I mean, honestly, this is kind of what I was talking about too. I mean, maybe I'm being a little reductive here, but a certain level of it is that socialization I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like people are going to the fucking movie and they're going like, all right, tell me how I'm supposed to be a person in a communal sense. And when the laugh line comes, right? This is one of the funniest parts about, and I don't want to ramble too much here, but this is one of the funniest parts about Barbie, is that there are beats where you're supposed to laugh at things that aren't entirely clear. Right. And it's the knife's edge of like, is it supposed to be the bad thing that Ken's saying or the correct right thing that Barbie is saying? And, people aren't actually laughing or clapping like seals at the content of like the 2014 era shit lib feminist thing. They're clapping because the mechanical part of the movie is giving the
applause sign came on.
Yeah, exactly.
But, Bogbeef hit on something earlier before we move on. Like the idea that they view these boardrooms, whoever's Mattel's boardroom making the decisions about this movie, or the Budweiser boardroom, this is not just limited to that. This is a very big problem. This is like a issue of people not recognizing mortality. And I mean, and that sounds kind of bombastic, but it's true. People think that like, there's this group of, they'll complain about like old white guys, but really what they're thinking is, well, dad's there, always there to be a backstop forever. Yeah. And, it might be a problem. I have to negotiate with dad. It can be annoying to get what I want. But the thing is, Dad's not there anymore. And maybe he still is, but he's up in his years, and very soon there's not going to be anybody in that old 70-year-old white guy with the business sense is going to be gone, and the boardroom is just going to be, the people who said, "Hey, we should make Dylan Mulvaney the queen of beers or whatever. Like we should do that." That they're going to be in charge of everything, right. And they have this idea, and it goes in like every layer of society. Like, hey, we can send all of our industrial production to China, but we'll still be super rich and super powerful and be able to make anything we want. You can't. You send all that shit away. You can't do it anymore. You can't make things here anymore. But they don't think of it that way. They're imagining themselves. And like, I link it to mortality because if you're unfortunate enough to have hit your 30s already, you know how this is. You view yourself the same way that you were when you were 22. But reality is you ain't that person anymore.
Yep.
You can't do the things that you used to be able to do, but you go on thinking that way. I catch myself doing this all the time, like, with my mom who's getting on in years. Like, oh, why doesn't she just do this? Well, she can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. She's 62 years old. She can't do that shit anymore. She's not able. But humans are bad at envisioning this. The problem is when you put people who are incapable or don't care about this aspect of reality in charge, they will make decisions, and you'll find yourself like, you're in the Roadrunner cartoon where you're running over the chasm, and then you look down and notice, oh, the ground's gone, and then that's it. You don't have any recourse anymore. And that, I really think that's where we're heading in so many different aspects. Like when we talk with Malcolm all the time about China, the one thing that he likes to really rail on is how, the thing that you think about America that was America in the 20th century doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
It's not the same country. And that's from top to bottom. It's not the same people. It's definitely not the same leaders, not the same economy, not the same social mores. But the Barbie movie, from what everybody says, pretends like not even we're back in 89, we're in 1889. Yeah. They would love for that to be true because they could sit back and just bitch at daddy about, I want more rights. What's going to terrify them is when they realize, actually, no, you got what you wanted. You're free now. You have the ability to make your own way. Once they realize that's the reality, they're gonna freak out. They're gonna lose their damn minds.
It's over. It's funny. It's looking at like planning on running a nation based on just like the same philosophy as like their like WASP family's investment portfolio of just being like, there's always a little nest egg that you don't need to worry about, and everything's gonna work out in the end.
There's always money in the banana stand.
Yeah.
There's always money in the banana stand. And no, 100% that. 100% that.
I think that's true. What you were saying there, Mark, is true about like the entire ideology package that is the mainstream kind of like liberal or progressive ideology stack now is basically just set against a false, not a false, but like a projection of a reality that stopped happening like 50 years ago. Like it's just like, and they need for that to be believed in order for that package of ideology to have any type of legs to stand on, because it's like, it's about the old dad or whatever from the 1950s that's doing all this stuff and keeping women in the house and keeping black people like in the field or whatever, and it's like that's not actively happening now, but they have to like try to make that essentially just like the paradigm through which everyone sees. So then you're like, let's do this stuff that's all subversive, and it's against like this is anti-racist, it's anti this or whatever. But really the people who are in charge actively right now, which is no one really is except for all these fucking mindless PMC everywhere that kind of are just like this one big web that don't really know what they're doing and what they're part of. Those people are the ones who are believing this packet of ideology, but they're also the ones that are creating the reality that's existing right now. And it's not the old one that they're trying to push against. And so like when people try to say, okay, well, let's be subversive and like, like this stuff that's in the Barbie movie, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool because that's empowering women. And it's like fighting back against fucking the patriarchy or whatever. It's like, no, that's created in order to create like this false concept of things by the people who are actively fucking up everyone's reality right now.
There's an old joke, and this is funny because I'm sure I saw it in a movie, like someone telling this joke, and it's like an old Cold War joke. Maybe you've heard it. Like, so the new guy who's taking over for the president of Russia, like this is the USSR, right? He's the new premier, and the old premier says, hey, good luck. I'm being forced out. I'm leaving you 2 letters here in case you ever get in trouble. And you open the first one, open the second one. So he said he's president for a while, whatever. He has problems with the kulaks. He gets into a jam, so he opens the first letter, and the first letter says, "Blame everything on me." And so he does that, and he gets out of the jam, like, "Hey, yeah, okay, everybody buys that. It's great." And, time goes on, he runs into another problem. So he gets a second letter, opens that, and it says, "Sit down at the desk and write 2 letters." Like that's their problem. It's like you can well, maybe it's not actually. I'm gonna actually undercut my own point because like if you look at South Africa, they're still blaming like the things happen there, like the 15 white people still left in Cape Town. So maybe this isn't a problem. Maybe you can just blame the people who are obviously not in charge forever. But I think probably eventually you're that well's going to run dry, where it's like, well, I love to do this, but the patriarchy is stopping me. No, everything on TV is gay, and women are in charge of, like, women are 70% of college graduates in a couple years. You're going to have a hard time probably convincing other women that the problem is the patriarchy. But maybe I'm wrong about that. You would hope that eventually that would stop working.
It's funny. Oh, go ahead.
So the Elizabeth Holmes thing, a lot of discussion on that, and
that's the Theranos fraud.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really, really great sort of snapshot of like how people keep getting the elite thing wrong, where they're thinking about because like legitimately, like the United States used to have a ruling aristocracy called the Boston Brahmin. Like the U.S. government was like a family business of these people. And I mean, it's so like there was like a U.S. Like there was there was like a centralized brain that made decisions. Like there was like a core that sort of like wanted to keep the thing going and protect it. And I'm not saying these people were the greatest people, especially I say that as a Southerner. I mean, I'm sure you that sort of gets into that, but there was like a United States as such. In terms of like having a legitimate ruling aristocracy, and the fault of the ruling aristocracy was that includes responsibility, and that's what nobody wants. And you've seen the way the world has changed. Anyway, sorry to get away from that, but so that's how people sort of think of things. That everything's done by these big brain guys, groups of guys that sort of know everything, blah blah blah. If you look at Theranos, where did she get most of her money? Where she got most of her money was walking up to billionaires, like people that have been very successful in the 20th century, like people like Kissinger and stuff. Like, I don't know, it wasn't Kissinger, but all these people like that. They're just so these old guys old guard, super successful guys. And I'll tell you that like her look was designed to make these old guys horny. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. And she would tell them about the blood and stuff, and they would just give her tons of money. That's where there's no other person that intervenes here. And all these decisions are made. I believe that woman Anheuser-Busch is fired. She's just
she fired the guy who hired her too.
Mm-hmm. She's just sort of floating through the wind, going to patch onto this other network. There's this network and there's that network. And, I think that we're all like, people haven't even sort of, well, anyways.
Dude, that's whenever Bogbeef is making a point when he does the well anyways, that's when it was about to get to the crescendo. This whole thing reminds me a bit of I went to school for making movies, right? And before I dropped out. And so I always have to look at things a little bit this way when we're talking about like media stuff. And I watched, for whatever fucking reason, well, I know why, because I was stuck with some normies, and they ended up putting on the Netflix remake of Matilda, and we watched that, and there was some and there was something about there was this interesting
Wait, isn't that Roald Dahl?
Matilda? Yeah.
He's the canceled author or something now.
Yeah, double dipping on Roald Dahl. He probably would have hated this film. I don't know if Roald Dahl was actually based in real life or anything, but I mean, what? He was like doesn't fucking matter. Anyways, it's Netflix, right? So you already know what it is, right? But it's funny because across Barbie and that, there's this funny thing. I think like Marshall McLuhan has this line about like, in like the 70s, like the view of the view of the culture was like bonanza, right? Like everything's always kind of in the rear view, right? So, what seems like the cutting edge is always the last couple of cycles back. And I'm watching like Matilda, and the whole thing is that there's this tyrannical headmaster of this school, right? And I'm sure she's like, a white supremacist and, all that stuff. And they always depict her sitting in this fucking Ozymandias wall of monitors room, looking at all of the different camera angles in the school. And it's Foucault, right? Like she's in the little panopticon. Mm-hmm. She's got her little disciplinary power. And in Barbie, right? Barbie's going through the Mattel corporate headquarters, which, as a total side note, the B plot of like Mattel and that whole thing is funny because it serves absolutely no purpose in the plot, but I'm sure no one cares about that at all. And she's running through, and they're like very obviously doing a chase between cubicles that's just like Kafka. It just like looks like The Trial or something, right? And it's funny because it's this really obvious aesthetic telling on themselves of just like, yes, like everything is like fucking trapped in amber, like in fucking Jurassic Park. It's like a view of our culture that's like at this point it's like 70 years old or something at least. And they have no way of even visually conveying how power works and how authority works and how any of this stuff works, that isn't just like literally based on books that were written decades and decades and decades ago. And I always just think that's kind of a funny way of a funny thing of noticing. I'm not even necessarily going anywhere with this, but it's just to the point you guys are saying. It's just so out of date. They haven't even gotten wizened up to it. I don't know if they ever will.
Well, because they have to admit, if you made the Mattel scene to be reality, it would be. You ever seen the movie Dogma, the old Kevin Smith movie?
Oh yeah.
It's like in the boardroom where when he goes and
shoots him up with like an Uzi.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah, and because they're idolaters, right? And like they're a character. It's more like a Barney character, but it's a golden calf, literally. Yeah, because Kevin Smith's really subtle in his stuff. Anyway,
he's a thinking man.
The boardroom is full of just the worst degenerate idiots that you've ever seen on planet Earth. They're all horrible people. Like if you were going to do Barbie for real, you would have that. You would have this boardroom full of morons who are like, I'm a diversity hire. I'm here because whatever. You would have to do that. And obviously Mattel's not going to go for that. But more importantly, like Greta Gerwig's not going to go for that because she's like, they put her in this place that she's at. She's like isn't she like the most? They keep saying she's the most celebrated writer of the last few years.
Dude, people need to calm down. She's the white woman Jordan Peele. She's made like three fucking movies at this point.
Who is this broad?
This is the broad that Noah. She fucking. The most famous thing she did before Lady Bird was like fucking a married guy who was an accomplished screenwriter. So like, connect the dots there. I authentically really liked Lady Bird. I thought that was a genuinely good film. But like, dude, 3 fucking movies. Calm down, dude.
I've never seen it, but it's about being a woman, right?
I mean, it's cashing in on nostalgia points, so like it gets graded on a curve a little bit, but like I liked it. That's what.
Oh hell, it's A24.
It's a very A24 movie. But I mean, her and fucking the Mad TV guy. It's just like you need to calm down, dude. Like it's not even a very good batting average. Like Little Women doesn't even count, because that's not. You made a Hallmark movie, okay? Like that's not. Anyway, sorry.
Peele's a great example. Peele's a great example. He's a person who's like he's celebrated as an amazing writer, and like he did a sketch. He did like a sketch comedy show. He was on Mad TV, did a sketch comedy show, and he's put out a bunch of movies about how awful, like how evil white people are. It's like I'm sorry, you're not even Spike Lee. And that's even that wouldn't be a huge feather in your cap.
I think a lot of that is that the thought, like they like what if the plot behind one of those Jordan Peele movies, like if it was good, that would be like the greatest thing in the world. Unfortunately, that hasn't been able to happen yet. But somehow I want to talk about this stuff, especially with the Hollywood, and going back to talking about stuff that Lord Yarvin said. Now I feel like I'm on home base here.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, I mean, if you look around, I mean, it's been there's a lot more people now walking around saying, "Oh, this guy's a great genius" and stuff. People who told me he was a moron 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah. So like the thing about being cool. So being cool is it's not straightforward. So the thing about being cool is like you cannot, like if you hate the people that are in charge, then being cool is something that definitely has to be considered. For whatever reason, humans do have this, that we have this thing built into us that we sort of detect it, we sort of like it, and it's this thing about being cool. And it's you can't really exactly put your finger on it, but like the thing about being cool is that like there are parts of being cool like that are I mean, frankly, they just kind of suck. Like I guess like doing drugs all the time is cool. I don't know if that one is sort of as strong as like well, somehow that is somewhere in being cool. Like I just have to admit it, even though like my age, I think, wow, that person's a fucking loser, or etc. It is in there, but there are other things like if you like, this is one of the things like where right wingers can't sort of like the right winger way to be cool, and I don't mean like right wing like I'm not talking about Ben Shapiro, but I just mean like this sort of pre-liberal world or whatever, was being like a war hero. That's cool. You guys know Audie Murphy?
No,
I don't think so.
So Audie Murphy was the most successful infantryman in World War II. He was American. He was like 5'3" or something. Like his family was poor. He was like 5'3". I mean, like he really like he lived in a shotgun shack. But he was like an amazing warrior. As soon as not as soon as he got back, but they just started putting him in Hollywood movies and stuff. They're like, this guy is really cool. And of course, men were like, gosh, I want to be like that guy. That guy's a badass. He's super cool. And he spent all his time banging out the hottest women in the United States, and et cetera. He died in a plane crash. It's sort of like when you had like these sort of people.
That's
like,
also very cool, dying in a plane
that's
crash.
A great way of going out.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Just for reference, like if you don't know anything else about Audie Murphy, if you go to Wikipedia, Audie Murphy has his Wikipedia page, and then a separate Wikipedia page that just lists all the medals that he got in World War II, because there are so many they had to just put out a whole page for.
It says he received every combat award for valor available.
It's really, I mean, it's really obscene because, like, if you read basically any person's Medal of Honor story, like they like all the right things happened at the same time, and they did something awesome. Audie Murphy did that like 6 times in a row, and people think, well, he must have been really lucky to not get shot or whatever. Oh, he got shot a bunch of times.
He has 3 purple. He had 3 Purple Hearts. He had a Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, 2 Bronze Stars, and he was shot 3 times.
Holy shit.
He's basically the Call of Duty guy in real life. That was his audience. He became a movie star after the war.
This is just making me think like the modern equivalent is like 50 Cent being in the new Expendables movie because he got shot like 8 times or something.
Well, I mean, that's exactly where I was going. So this is something that like,
really,
I just want to establish that like, no matter who you are, you are sensitive to being cool or whatever. You might not like, you have that button in you. You want to, if you're a soldier, you want to look up to an officer at school, blah, blah, blah. But this also extends for every kind of group whatsoever. But like, there is some kind of like objective coolness that is like not like they don't have people that are as cool as that are as cool as Harrison Ford was in the 70s, or one of my I watched one of my favorite movies again the other day, which I've seen 1,000 times. You guys ever seen Bullet?
Oh, dude, I love Bullet. Dude, Bullet is like a fucking. It's like an action movie for swingers. It's like it's Dirty Harry for swingers, basically, with jazz flute. Bullet rocks, dude, with the fucking fastback Mustang. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and I mean, we talking about like these random actresses now. What about Jacqueline Bisset? My God. But the thing about Bullet is if you sort of grow up in today's world, you get into watching these cop movies and stuff. You're like, gosh, I love these cop movies. I love this Lethal Weapon and or even Heat or stuff like that. And you're like, well, you can just go watch the movie they stole all this stuff from. It's called Bullet. That's where all this shit comes from. But anyways, like Bullet, you have Steve McQueen. Like Steve McQueen wasn't this classically trained actor or whatever. He was a super cool dude that they were like, holy shit, we need to make this. But this guy movies. This guy is cool as hell.
Wasn't he like a driver or something? Wasn't that the whole thing? I don't think he was an actor.
Oh, we would spend 30 minutes going into his life. I mean, he was in the Marines. He traveled. I mean, he was like, his life was like the coolest thing you could imagine.
Let's go.
And so but they don't have this right now. And there is this huge deficit of it. And if you even look at the celebrities that the Zoomers into and stuff, they're not that cool. And they know it. They don't, I mean, there's this huge deficit of coolness that is definitely like, that is like the there's a gap, and I don't know what that is, but it definitely exists. I mean, this, by the way, the thing where people say, and they don't want to say this because it's embarrassing, they'll say you can't homeschool your kids. They'll give you all these reasons why you don't want to do that. What they really mean is they won't be cool. That's it. Yep. It just sounds retarded to say that because like it shouldn't really be that much of a priority. But it is something that has to be considered, and there is an opportunity out there.
This is funny because I think we're having a little bit of a psychic link today. This is a concept that I've developed for a little while now, which is okay. All right, there's a nature versus nurture concept of cool. There's a distinction here, okay, that needs to be acknowledged. There's like an innate, natural, objective, ontological cool, okay, like fucking like hormonal level shit I'm talking here, right? Like there is shit that makes dudes cool, okay, and there's shit that makes girls cool that's just kind of a fact, right? And then there's a social cool, and I'm of the mind, and this whole concept I had kind of started on the foot of me going, there's no concept of cool anymore, okay, and I maintain that. But with the modifier that there's no social cool anymore, and there's no real monoculture anymore. I had this written down in something I wanted to discuss, and it's funny because I think Zendaya is a good example of this. Movie stars, and I'm not making the Tarantino point here. Movie stars aren't real. Celebrities don't exist anymore. They just spit new people out. Like I saw this video of this broad who's going to be Snow White, right? Yeah. And like
she's uglier than the Queen, which is hilarious.
She is uglier than
how can you do that? How can you make that movie?
And I'm sorry, but like I have no idea who the fuck this chick is.
Oh my God, what the hell? Sorry, I just looked it up.
And it's not even the fact that she's not even attractive. It's just like it's that meme of like I wake up today hoping I can have the confidence of a mediocre white guy. It's like the funniest part about that joke is that like look at how confident she is in this video. Lady, I don't know who you are. Okay. Point is that we have this kaleidoscope shattered culture, right? Like America culturally, there's no road back because people are functionally from different nations at this point. They don't have any common threads anymore, right? So the social concept of cool is just like completely fucking gone. But there is just this like aesthetic, objective, real cool that's there, right?
Well,
and go ahead.
So, well, I mean, if anyone, I don't know if this is the case, depending on when you went to high school, but it has to be the case. High school has to be a constant. In high school, I mean, so there were girls in your high school that were not they were either not fantastic looking, or there were definitely women that were hotter than them, and they sort of politic their way into being hotter, like on the social level.
No doubt.
This absolutely happens. I mean, they have an extra 10, 20 pounds. Maybe their dad's loaded or something, and they're just through like relentless bullying and sort of social politics. They like, if you were like, you could look back at your yearbook wherever you're like, what the hell? Why was that chick that like supposed to be the hottest chick in the high school? She was not the hottest chick, and that's sort of happening as society feminizes on a national and global scale. This has sort of happened. There's two some of my friends on Twitter, Bizlet and Bad Billy. Sorry, I can't remember your last name right now. Bad Billy Pratt. They sort of been poking at this with the what's her name?
Margot Robbie. They call her mid, yeah.
Margot Robbie. They call her mid.
We talked about this. Yeah.
And see, here's the like. Before you answer anything about this, just type in these two names. Just type in Michaela Demeter, Demaiter, on Instagram, or Jenna Renee.
And they look good.
What you'll find is that like
how do you spell Demeter? Sorry, I'm literally doing this right now.
Michaela Michaela Demaiter.
Okay, yeah, here we go.
Just look at the first little video and her in the short pants walking down the street.
Yeah.
So that like that didn't go away. That definitely exists.
Yep.
But these are not only like are these people not being sought, like, oh, the talent scout just didn't run into her. No, she's got 3 million followers. Instead, she's like some kind of like she's modeling like cheap Chinese clothes for AliExpress or something like that. Because that's not there's I don't know.
Well, okay, this is like a legitimately easy one to diagnose.
Yeah. By the way, I don't have a diagnosis for exactly for how that happened, and that is sort of an interesting question. It's not like these. In other words, it's not like there's not people that are that cool or that beautiful that aren't out there, because they certainly are.
Well, I think that Margot Robbie also has a cultural cachet behind her as well, and so I think she brings like a certain amount to a film.
Oh yeah. So
yeah, that's part of it, I think.
I'm not specifically saying like why is this hot chick or not a hot chick. I'm with the diagnosis of why are people not cool anymore? Well, this is something that you can't escape. It's mechanical, and like let's use a highbrow example. Let's say the Carolingian Empire, right? So like the first guy who's like technically not part of the empire, but he's
what happened to the 5'11" blondes with giant hooters in the Carolingian Empire? I hope that's what you're about to say.
I was like, the first guy is called Charles the Hammer Martel. His name's the Hammer. Next guy, Charles the Great, father of nations. Louis the Pious. Next. Okay, it's still good. Being pious is good.
It's admirable.
Charles the Bald. Last one, Charles the Fat.
Oh, now, fuck.
Why does this happen? Because like when Charles the Great was getting stuff done, it was easy to be cool. You're just cool because you're on the move. You
just described Charles Barkley's career, by the way.
Yo, let off the man, bro.
Damn, a little payback for the good people of San Antonio.
The women down there, God bless them.
I had one of them churros. Anyway, so it's easy to be cool. It's effortless to be cool when you're winning. When you're expanding outwards, you're making moves. Steve McQueen, your example. He's the guy who he joined like the Merchant Marine when he was 17. He was in the war. He's a war hero. He did racing cars, doing all this cool stuff. He didn't have to try to be. I mean, I'm sure he did try to be cool, but he didn't have to try too hard. If you're a Zoomer, what is there to be cool about? Well, I guess like Spider-Man getting your back blown out. That's the way. That's the way to be
for real,
cool.
dude.
Yeah, but there's some different. But like whoever that Jacqueline Bisset, like that woman, right? I showed that woman on Instagram. That she looks as good as Jacqueline Bisset, but she ain't in the movies. And there are guys there are warriors and cool guys that. Why does society sort of set them aside and sort of go
because they're going to be the ones who replace these people, and they know that. Like, if you're like Charles the Fat might have been the last king of the Carolingian Empire, but he wasn't the last king of France. There was a guy who stepped up and took over after he died of being fat. Right? They know this. They don't. This is kind of the point that Bad Billy Pratt was making. He explicitly said this. He goes, "If you put like Sydney Sweeney in Barbie, women would burn down the movie theaters." Right? You're like double D, 22-year-old beautiful woman. If you put her in Barbie, Greta Gerwig doesn't want that. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. Whatever. I don't care about the casting decisions unless you're doing something explicitly like making ugly people be Snow White. That's a strange decision. But the point is they're holding on for dear life to their cultural cachet, their power, their little empire, and it's slipping away. And it's when you're on the down slope, it's really hard to be cool. Like a lot of times, all the stuff that might have been cool in the past, like Steve McQueen going to a Hollywood orgy in like 1969, you could write that like a story that happens is cool. A Hollywood orgy with Spider-Man in 2023 would be a comedy or like a tragedy, right? It's they're the same. It's the same situation, but it's different people in different times.
Oh, no. It's a good story. That's just the sound of freedom.
Oh, damn!
I'm sorry, I had to.
That was monstrous. Yeah.
Pray for Jim Caviezel. No, I get 100. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, with specifically to Bogbeef's point about like why is this this Instagram model not in these movies? I think that like it's also just easier to be an Instagram model, and so like there are a lot of hot rods that like it's just better for them to be that rather than try to go and be a movie star. And I think that like right now it's maybe more culturally relevant to be a hot chick on Instagram than to be a movie star. I think that's like the new media kind of, I think they're happy staying there. I don't think that it's like an incentive for them to go be a movie star. She can model Alibaba clothes all day long and get 6 million likes on a picture of her ass and be fine with that.
She don't have to give Harvey Weinstein a hand job to get that job either. Which like, what did I don't know. That's a mean thing to say. Like, Margot Robbie probably had
to get the job.
Margot Robbie, she was when she was young, she was like a 10 out of 10 woman. She still is a beautiful woman. But when she was in The Wolf of Wall Street, she's a beautiful woman. But like, there were a lot of other beautiful women in Hollywood. She probably had to do stuff she didn't like to do to get to where she is. And you probably don't have to worry about that if you're an Instagram model. Now, if you're like the old model system, you explicitly did, right? You have creepy photographers and stuff. Maybe with Instagram, you don't do that. You just have your own smartphone and you drag your boyfriend along to tourist traps and take pictures of you holding up the Leaning Tower of Pisa in a bikini or whatever. And you don't have to fuck with any of that. If you're a beautiful woman, you don't have to do any of that shit. You can just marry a rich guy to begin with.
Yeah. I would say that that market is getting pretty saturated. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I've been to, now it's different. It's not like other markets because,
I put up some boudoir photos. Yeah.
there is quite a lot of, the market capacity for the male desire to see naked chicks is like, it's very, very large. However, most of the women on OnlyFans don't make all the money. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I don't live in Manhattan. A couple weeks ago, I went to Publix. There was a chick there wearing like a T-shirt that advertised her OnlyFans on.
What the fuck? I've never seen that before.
No, but that's right.
Do they even allow that in Publix?
Yeah,
dude, they shouldn't, bro.
Well, I mean, so the other example, I mean, you guys have definitely drove past and seen like Instagram thoughts, like doing like their public, like where they stand on the road next to some monument or something.
Yeah,
I went to this last year. I went to Japan and I went to a huge Buddha statue, one of the oldest things I've ever seen in my life. And there was some bitch with like one of those little tripods for her phone taking pictures in front of it, and I was just like, what an amazing contrast.
I see that a lot. What I see around my area more so is I see people that want to be rappers taking photos in like parking lots of grocery stores in front of vehicles. I see a lot of that. I think it's a similar kind of mentality.
They're trying to land the gig of recording the next Marjorie Taylor Greene campaign ad. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the thing is that all of those hot people, all those hot women still exist. All that shit still exists. It's just like it all is basically relegated to the same category as like Christian faith-based movies now, which is just like I was talking to my fiance the other night about this too, of like they still make like normie, you know, middle class family quirky comedies. They just are only give them like one screen in the Cineplex. And it's just like it's almost like culture has just continued to grow and none of the branches have fallen off the tree. They're just only giving attention and putting the marketing bucks behind the things that have the social engineering agenda behind it. Right. So there's still a huge market for the blonde, big canned ladies and the fucking butt rock action movies. It's just that like those are captive audiences that are still going to show up. And they've basically just like stopped trying to grow that. And so everything that's like getting the attention and getting the spotlight is just the like, you know, I don't know, DMV lady stuff and, you know, Snow White and the 7 Munchausen babies. I don't know.
I think they're definitely making less of them though. Like they're making less of those. Just
that's true. That's true.
They're making less of those fucking movies or shoot 'em up movies. They're making because of what you're talking about, where they're showing preference, but with their money and with the capital they're backing.
When I don't want to downplay it, right? Because it's like we're not getting Jingle All the Way with fucking heavy hitter Arnold Schwarzeneggers anymore. We're getting like Jingle All the Way with fucking Kirk Cameron now. You know what I mean? Everything is just Kirk Cameron now, and it's like, okay, they're not sending their best, sure, but I feel like this stuff is still churning them out somewhere. You know, it's just weird. Everything's just segmented. Like, dude, this was the thing I wanted to talk about with what the fuck is this girl's name? Pearl Davis. Okay. Pearl Davis is what was that?
Really thanks.
Pearl Davis is talking about Adam 22 being cucked and talked about by Andrew Tate and all, and I'm like,
who's Adam 22?
Yeah, who are these people?
No, and this is my point.
Don't tell him.
I don't. Well, no, this is my. I mean, I know now. I have the weight of knowing now. Okay, but like, I don't like who the fuck are any of these fucking people. Okay, and I'm sorry, but like this chick is being touted. Oh, I closed the fucking window. I'm gonna look it up real fast. And this is one of the funniest parts. And I'm not necessarily. I don't want to act like, even though I'm, you know, apparently Vanity Fair famous, right, as a Vanguard or something like. These are this woman's being touted as like this threat against this is, you know, she posts earlier today, greatest conservatives of all time, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Larry Elder, Steven Crowder, Jordan Peterson. I mean, these people are like,
dude, what the fuck?
These people are cold porridge for personalities. I think my favorite take on this chick was Radfem Hitler just saying like this chick has a traumatic brain injury face. And she has traumatic brain injury personality. I don't know who these fucking people are. But apparently it's like fucking mold growing in the back of your fridge. You just like turn it over. And apparently on Instagram, like Andrew Tate and Pearl Davis and whoever the fuck Adam 22 is, I think that's like the new version of the what used to be like the Howard Stern universe or something. They just suddenly are the most famous people in Western civilization.
Well, I could definitely explain this.
Please do.
Okay, so I don't like. So the thing with Pearly, thanks. This she's just come out, redhead thing, and every sort of right-wing podcaster is sort of like, where did this come from? Well, by the way, she'll tell you where this came from. So she was a huge fan of Kevin Samuels. Do you guys know who Kevin Samuels is?
Is he like a pickup artist or something?
He sort of took that pickup artist stuff and
he's based. Yeah, I know Kevin Samuels. Yeah. He would get on the phone with women that are like, think that they're tins or whatever. And he'd be like, "You fat."
Oh yeah, see, Kevin Samuels. I mean, I don't think people can say shit about him, like especially in terms of like entertainment. So like with Andrew Tate, like the level of famous he has for having a fucking newsletter. How many of these people actually subscribe to this newsletter? Like, where are these people getting all this Andrew Tate content? He don't have a show or nothing. So I mean, that is highly suspicious and/or / bullshit. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. Are all you guys reading this fucking newsletter? Or like. That makes no sense. But anyways, so she was this huge fan, but Kevin Samuels took all this same kind of stuff like Andrew Tate or any of these guys, but he had a show and it was entertaining. And he made it for a market. He made it for black people. He took all this PUA stuff. He made it for black people.
Was he kind of like Tariq?
No, I mean
never mind. It's fine.
Yeah, no, he was more straight up like talking about like sort of the war between the sexes and stuff, and it was highly entertaining. Like he said, the thing that got him so famous is beautiful women would call in and say, "Well, I like rate me. You're this guy." Like, and he would say, and he would tell them why they're trash or whatever, and that was super entertaining. It's super entertaining to have some guy say that. So she was a super fan of Kevin Samuels, and because she's like. She's not black, but she somehow like grew up in black culture. Like
who Pearly Things?
Pearly Things.
Oh yeah,
I can see that on her.
She's heavy, so that makes sense.
Right. So she like basically like I don't know how to say this, but like you can sort of like live in that world, and it's like they think they're black. But that includes like getting away with certain things. So like, by the way, if you're Ice. Well, like, by the way, Ice Cube can say things about certain ethnic groups that other people can't say.
Oh, yeah.
And she sort of like assumes that she does do that. I don't know if she deleted a video the other day, but she sort of like, she sort of only was watching all this black content, and she's watching this Kevin Samuels and stuff. Kevin Samuels died suddenly. He just had a heart attack out of nowhere or something like that.
Hit him with a heart attack gun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hit him with the shot.
And so she was like, well, and she'll tell you all she does is just rerun Kevin Samuels bits. And so that's where all that stuff is. That's why it's sort of like anyways, I think a huge missing part of this, and this is where I'm gonna say something controversial. Feel free to wipe it out. I think a big thing missing here, and like so you see this Adam 22 guy, you're like, how's this guy getting all this play and stuff like that? Well, like, if you take white people that are actually cool, they all get fucking banned. Like and I'm talking about like anything. Like, if you are a 20-year-old, and we covered a story just a little while ago. There was a guy that was like a young, handsome guy, like 20, 21, that had made it up to the tank commander rank in the Army. He was commanding a tank. Young, handsome guy, cool guy, and he was killing it on TikTok, just sort of making videos of farting around with his friends. So you're like, wow, that's sort of like a recipe for being super cool. Like, you're a warrior, you're handsome, you're young, and you're funny on TikTok. Wow. And he just got fucking banned and fired from the Army because they're
Wow.
and it was just sort of like, they said he was he didn't say anything about like it was just sort of men and women ribbing and stuff, like sort of like dumb blonde jokes and stuff.
Before you said like the thing that got him fired was he posted like it was like a video like I'm getting deployed, and he comes back and he's wearing a wig and has like a something on like under his shirt like he's pregnant. And he's like, I can't be, and like that was why they kicked him out of the military. That's what you said last time you talked about this.
Yeah,
I don't know if
he just literally does one of the main bits from MASH.
Yes, if you're Corporal Klinger, you're going to be in federal penitentiary now.
I was gonna say like it would have been hilarious if just like what got him fired was him just like having some post about chimps not masturbating in the wild, and people are like, all right, shut it down. But no, keep going.
So like I would just take like someone who would be like you could definitely slot into any of these cools that's a white guy, because like I don't know how to say this, but like, if you're black, you can just post videos of yourself doing whatever you want. You can have a Glock switch. You can sort of blast guns. You can just do anything you want, and that's never going to like get you banned or whatever. I don't know why. That just happens to be the case. Well, I mean, let's just keep moving.
That's your John Morant, dude.
But like, if you go, but look at you guys know Grand Thumb.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
YouTuber.
Google it.
So he's a gun YouTuber. So he's like an ex-military guy. He's handsome, he's young, he's funny and stuff. And like every post he makes, you know, he has to like sort of, he can't post shit. And like if he posts himself putting the magazine in the gun, then he gets banned and he gets
demonetized. If you sometimes on YouTube, if you like show yourself putting the magazine in the gun, you will get demonetized. Your video will not be able to make money because you're doing violence.
That's crazy.
There was an older example of like, you guys remember the first guy who you might have asked this question about was like that PewDiePie. Remember him from YouTube way back when? He was the Swedish guy, like all the kids.
And he said the gamer word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's yeah. But like he had like this arc where he like became based and he pretty much quit doing YouTube. But anyway, he did this video where he did like how they'll have rap videos that are like a beef, like I'm going to threaten to the K word, Sean. Puff Daddy or whatever,
Suge Knight's, yeah. 100.
That's a thing you're allowed to do on YouTube. You can post YouTube videos threatening to kill somebody if it's a rap video that's like a diss track. You're allowed to do that and have your video monetized.
Ghostface Killah has a big one.
Yeah, that's the YouTube policy. So he made a like gangster rap diss track of another YouTube channel, like one of those channels that they play stuff for like AI generated content for children, like genuinely kind of an evil thing. He did a diss track of this, and he got banned from YouTube because he's not allowed to do that because he's not like playing. Like the reason I said why this is because they're part. Should I pause since he's okay? The reason I said that you know what this is because this is part of our home cooking. This is the patrons. They're in the patronage group. They're made men. They're allowed to do whatever they want because they're part of like the Democratic Party's political coalition. You can do almost whatever you want if you're in that group. You're part of the in group. You're allowed. If you're like a white dude or whatever, or increasingly an Asian person, you're part of the out group. Your behavior is going to be policed. You're going to be punished. You're going to be kicked out. You're going to be, you have your money taken away from you if you're posting shit on YouTube.
But more specifically, we won't let you be cool.
Yeah.
Unless you start taking back shots.
Yeah, that's the only way a white dude can be cool anymore is you start taking back shots.
Otherwise, they'll ban you. I mean,
that's the problem for them. They can't. Their whole concept of cool is being transgressive and being subversive, right? But they're in charge now, and everybody kind of knows it. So you're not cool anymore. They have a real problem with. They have a real anxiety issue with not being able to do that anymore. Yeah, you can just say. Hit them with the censorship and the iron fist and stuff, and you can do that and it works. But that nobody in Western culture perceives that as cool. It's perceived as the opposite of cool, and like this is a huge problem for them in their own conception of themselves. It's not a problem like mechanically. If you told me you're going to have a 6-figure job for the rest of your life and be a powerful person, but everyone's going to think you're not cool, I'm fine with that. That would be a great deal for me, but. There are people that would rather chop their own arm off than take that deal. That's an important part of their existence.
But also, I mean, that's sort of like the you just being personally rich or whatever. That just affects you, whereas you being cool, that's sort of like that's a different sort of power. That's sort of kind of mildly dangerous. Like other people, like this guy could sort of do weird. Like, this guy could affect society if you want to, if he's just cool. You know what I'm saying?
Well, also, it's a matter of I don't have a lot of money, and if I did, I'd feel differently. Like when we were joking about this the other day, there are people who have podcasts, are really popular podcasts. Like they came from money. Their parents are rich. They were rich before they started the podcast. They might be making $1 million a year or whatever doing it, but that's not necessarily why they're in it. They're not counting the dollars and thinking, hell yeah. They want to be cool. They want to be popular. They want to be powerful because they were already rich.
Yeah.
They wanted that social. Everybody wants social validation. Everybody wants to be higher in the hierarchy than they are. But for them, just being richer doesn't do that for them.
Right. They want to have an influence. Well, also like it's like half of the Chapos like have connections with feds too. So there's that.
Oh yeah.
Which is fucking hilarious. But
yeah, real underdog story with those guys.
Yeah, no, rags to riches is beautiful. No, this is where you get into like the real like the real view of like what actual power is, right? As opposed to just being like, I want to like have a lot of money and get like gold grills and like a nice car. It's like, I want to like it's the whole insight about just like the hyper rich people don't dress super, super showy. But they're like, they're investing in having actual sway and having actual influence and things like that. This
was always something that the Europeans said that they criticized us for this, and this is historically going back from colonial era until, well, I guess you could decide when it ended, but the idea was that we're just people who we're obsessed with money. That's all we care about. We're not cultured. Like if you want to be the most powerful person in America, you need to get rich, and that was kind of their old world, looking down on the new money kind of view of us. However, that shit is gone. That ship has sailed relatively recently. I'm going to say after the end of World War II, and now.
Well, people still like money, but I mean, this other kind of power, it's also important. And I mean, like, by the way, you can't tax being cool.
Right. But I'm not saying that whether it's good or like, well, yeah, I am saying it's whether it's good or bad, like important or not, whatever. It has its own cachet, it has its own power. The point is, this was fundamental part of American identity for like 200 years or longer, depending on how you want to look at what the country is. And now it's over, and now we have kind of British Empire views of like what's powerful and what's good. And like, I think that's another one of those signs that, you're on the downslope now. You don't care about the stuff that traditionally your people were really obsessed with. This is our thing. We're a country of people who wanted to build railroad tracks and get rich and stuff. We didn't have the cool salons. We never had a good novelist, all that shit. Oh, that's over now.
Okay. So the being cool thing asserts itself into this conversation, like, without sort of being effective. Like, you cannot absolutely design what being cool is. However, like, it's definitely been part of the situation for a long time. Like, there's Robert E. Lee. A huge part of being Robert E. Lee and having lots of people listen to your orders and stuff is that you're cool. Yeah. And he was definitely cool. And they were sort of like these aristocrats.
They were, yeah.
They were super cool. This is what everyone wrote about George Washington. They said this guy was cool as hell. And part of you, like, and no matter like, and even people, they're like, well, actually the most important thing is like how much this person like how much they follow the Bible, or they follow progressive or whatever. No matter what, everybody has a little thing in the back of their mind that's like, is that person cool? And right. I think this is a huge part of your back of my mind, definitely disrespects and wants to openly disrespect all our current elites because they're not cool. They are super, like being an elite right now is super gay. I mean, these people are not that cool.
Literally.
They're hall monitors. They're fucking hall monitors. They're fucking Poindexters. And it's really easy to just laugh them down. That's the whole fucking thing, is you can just laugh these people down. It's hilarious. Honestly, well, no, actually, go ahead. Keep going on that line of thought. I don't want to interrupt.
Go ahead.
This reminds me a little bit of there was like something I think a while back that BAP had said, talking about like, like people, you need like a leader to do heroic acts, which in my mind is a little bit synonymous with what we're talking about of just being cool. And he's just straight up, he gives the example of just like Moses is just like, I'm just declaring there's a new nation of people, and I'm going to just wow you by just doing magical acts of coolness and shit like that. Right. And it's the same kind of thing, right? As opposed to now it's kind of the exact opposite, right? Of like the progressive stack rewards just being as absolutely pathetic as possible, right? And like I'm sorry. Like I'm scrolling Twitter a little bit here and there just to like see things to kind of remind me of points I wanted to make. And I just keep coming back to this fucking video of the Snow White chick who has like insane eyes. Anybody listening to this, I'm like begging you to go and watch this video. She's standing. The funniest part about this video is she's standing next to Gal Gadot, right? Who like, listen, I don't really like Gal Gadot all that much.
Objectively, she is hot though.
And she's beautiful. She's beautiful. And the thing is that she knows how to conduct herself. Okay. John Lennon's Imagine aside, right? And like, and this lady's, this dwarf woman, I mean, she should be one of the 7 dwarves, is standing there like just gazing up at an incredible angle at the person interviewing her, and she's doing the I'm doing a New York Times bestseller book talk speaking event face, where she's doing the like HR, like, hey, I'm so glad you asked that. I have a really interesting answer. She's doing that face, right? And she's talking about like women leadership. And then you look at like Gal Gadot, who's like kind of just, looks like she would be in like, if she could act, she would be in like a Hitchcock film or something, right? And it's like
real yummy mummy.
A real yummy, absolutely, right? And the Mossad milkers, et cetera, et cetera. And she's normal, and she puts you at ease. Whereas the other thing is like a skinwalker, right? It's cool. It's cool and uncool.
She looks like a child, and she acts kind of like a child in the interview. And that if like an ingenue is a thing, how whatever. I don't want to be mean, but like you can go to CVS and you can find a cashier who's better looking than this woman, and she's going to be Snow White. That's retarded. That doesn't. But this fits perfectly with their idea, which you like talking about the progressive stack. I think this is the thing you have to understand about these people and their religion, and it really is a religion. They don't have actual heroes. If you think about all the people they worship, it's like they're people who like petition the government, like, please help me. Like that's their idea of a hero. That's the people they build statues for. And this is not really any conception of power in like the sense that normal people have ever recognized. I'll go back to, because I like to never shut up about Ivanhoe. This is a book where the main character and even his arch nemesis, Brian Dubois, or whatever, Mr. French name guy, they're both men who they're out there they're on the battlefield, they're lancing people's faces off, they're fighting to the death. There's a secondary cast of people who are just courtiers to Prince John, who just like their whole job is just like kiss his ass and mule around. And like we never recognize that as power. That was looked at as just the worst kind of human behavior that existed.
Yeah.
Like those people are in charge of everything in this moment. And
that's so true.
The worst part is they don't even pretend. Like most of the time when you do this, you'll lie and you'll pretend that you're somebody great. You've done great things. You're powerful. That you're actually out there moving or rearranging the world to your will, and you're making moves, and you're somehow Julius Caesar, even though you're not. They don't even do that. Like they're very open with this. I'm sorry, I don't know if the audience of this podcast is like this, but like Martin Luther King is their closest thing to the Jesus Christ figure that they have.
Yes.
And
George Floyd, but
even better example, like the conservatives really fuck up by like saying like, well, actually he was a wife beater and he did all this stuff. It doesn't matter. They don't care about that. But like, here's the thing about Martin Luther King Jr. What was his job? He was a community organizer. He's famous for like getting in front of a microphone and begging John F. Kennedy to do things to help his ethnic group. And that was what he did. That's his whole thing. He's heroic because he whined to the people with actual power that you should do things for me, and then like my people will vote for you forever. Right. Now, that is how politics works. Admittedly, that's how in democracy. That's how politics works. But that's not heroic. There's nothing heroic about that at all. That's not power in the heroic sense. When we say power, that's what we mean. my buddy here loves Boss Tweed, right? You're a big Boss Tweed fan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I know you don't like to hear this, but it's true. Boss Tweed's not a heroic figure. He was a powerful figure. He was a great organizer, did all this stuff. He wasn't a heroic person.
I don't know about that. I mean,
I know you're going to say you're going to disagree, but you're wrong. And like this is how it is. This is all their heroes. Every one of their heroes. George Floyd is like the absolute distilled essence of what they believe. Here's a person who's like, he wasn't even a victim. He was a person who went around committing petty crimes and like he made life worse for everybody around.
Yeah.
Yes. But in the end, he died in a way that would allow these people to petition.
Let it not be said that Boss Tweed was a stranger to violence. I mean,
but that's not. I know, but that's not why. That's not nobody. Yeah, I know that.
That violence wasn't immediately served in whatever his political thing. Either way, it wouldn't really matter. But I mean, I get what you like. So what you're saying? Like, by the way, there were people in the '60s at the same time as Martin Luther King who were like taking planes hostage and blowing shit and shooting people and stuff like that. That is heroic, yes.
I mean, if you're on their side, yes, that is. Like
I mean, like technically, if you were the judge of this game, you would say, well, these guys are. The one of them was a woman that's like she's still in jail. She was like, I'm going to take this plane hostage for civil rights. Yeah, I'm gonna put my life on the line.
That's like not a great worse example than say like there are people who had shootouts with the police at that period of time and died, and a lot of them died or went to jail. And like if you're from their perspective, that is heroic. You're putting your life in physical danger. You're physically fighting authority. Where as opposed to like, excuse me, I would like another grant from the.
I got to split soon, guys.
Oh, you're all good, man. You're all good, man. Yeah, the admission essay to Stanford isn't exactly
the Rockefeller Foundation was I was going for. Yeah.
But here that is probably a good time to cut us off as any.
We're veering down some different paths, and we're kind of implicitly like encouraging acts of violence.
Yeah, before my ISP just shuts us down here, But here, why don't you guys give the old plugs here? So you guys are good old boys. Where can we find you? What do you do?
Patreon.com/GOODOLBOYZ podcasts. We got a weekly and we do
every Tuesday at 9 we do one on Twitch, and then we have other episodes we release since then. And you can find us on Twitter too. He's Bog_beef, and I'm Marbleck. If you find him, you'll find me. Beautiful.
Well, this was a fucking blast. It was really good talking to you guys again, man. I mean,
I'm glad you guys are back in the saddle. It's awesome.
I want this on the record for your listeners. We had a person who came on our show, a very important man, very educated man, and he asked me specifically, whatever happened to Slav and COH?
Nice.
I'll be honest with you. He said Slav and that other guy, and I said yes, COH. But yeah, you know, he was asking about you guys like right before you messaged us to ask us to say. So this is an underground podcast in the making. It's like a revival where you're rolling away the stuff. I'm not going to say that. That's sacrilegious. But yeah, you're back.
Yes, upon the third day, we've returned. No, so. No, well, thank you, and I'll say this much, right? I'll say this much. Building my little patronage networks in here and everything. We have been banned off Twitter probably 4 fucking times since we started this.
Mostly because of me.
So this is it's all good, but so this is a late roll. So, dude, if you guys can help us just by fucking boosting the post when we release this. We will be forever in your debt. I'm excited to get this thing going again. You know, we don't have the numbers right now, but we know the people, right? So I'm excited. And honestly, I'm just thrilled to be able to get back talking with you guys because it's always a pleasure.
Rebuilding old relationships, I think, is kind of where we're at now, and trying to. I'm just real good to talk with you folks again, and everyone else that's come on the pod too.
Absolutely, I still feel the same way I felt back then. That I mean, like we could definitely have our own world of stuff. Like this is what like the actual good thing that the IDW did was that they just started interviewing each other constantly.
Yep.
And like nobody, so like no, Ben, no matter what you thought about Ben Shapiro or this guy or that guy, they were on each other's shows constantly. Like, who was the dude that worked for Yarvin?
Oh fuck.
His brother was at Evergreen College.
Oh, the Weinsteins, yeah.
No, hold
Eric
on.
Weinstein.
No,
right?
and he didn't work for Yarvin. He worked for Teal, and it was it was one of the Weinsteins. Brett Weinstein, who actually was my buddy's professor when he went there. Eric Weinstein, the Fed.
Yeah, he was one of their he was one of their boys, and he was just they just interviewed each other constantly, and whenever something would come up, they would just talk. They just built their own little world or whatever. And I mean, nobody's going to build a world for us. You know, we can do it, or that's it. And I don't know. Just as long as the creeks don't rise and we don't get banned, we're looking forward to doing more with you. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. I'm looking forward to many more.
And that concludes this week's episode of These People Are Sick. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, you could head over to our Patreon page, which is the home for bonus content, extra episodes, video content, access to our Discord, and more. That's patreon.com/thesepeoplearesick, and we hope to see you over there.